Now, Yiyi, you have 50 minutes. Thank you for
Okay.
presenting and take it away.
Okay. Thank you for coming to the talk. And today I'm going to talk about my recent work about observation learning and information disclosure in search markets. Oops. Okay. So in many markets, the seller lists the products with a list price, and the buyers need to pay a search cost to know their private valuations. And after they know their valuations, they make offers, or they even need to bid against each other if the multiple buyers are interested. And examples include like the home sales and the used cars and many other consumer finance products. And in this type of markets, the sale time and the sale price of a listed product not only depends on the buyer's valuation and their search costs, but also depends on whether the buyers investigate this product in the first place. And whether they want to learn about a product critically depends on their perception about the seller's reservation value, which can also be influenced by the choices of other agents, like other buyers and the seller itself. And this referred as observation learning in the literature. And in this paper, we are going to study the role of observation learning in search markets. And we are going to quantify the welfare effects of different information disclosure rules. And to achieve these goals, we are going to present and estimate a structural model of buyer learning, searching, and the bidding. And we are going to apply it to the housing market. And the housing market is the ideal starting market for studying this kind of question in a searching environment. And first of all, the homes are usually the largest consumption and investment for most families. And the buyers spend a lot of time to acquire information before they make their purchase decision. And also the choices are largely influenced by other agents' opinions and choices. For example, the role of the time on the market has been studied extensively in the literature, like in Taylor 1999, and he thinks the time on the market as the bad signal of the product quality. And also it has been the focus of many industrial regulations in the housing market. For example, in 2006, Massachusetts adopted a policy that prevents the sellers by recounting their time on the market by relisting their homes. And Tucker et al. 2013 particularly look at the impact of that policy. And in this paper, we are going to study the Beijing housing market because we can access a very unique data set in the Beijing about the Beijing housing market. And the data set, we have around 30,000 home listed and sold by the Lianjia, which is the largest real estate company in Beijing. And its market share is more than 50%, kind of the dominating real estate agent company in that city. And the home listings are taken from the 5 core districts of Beijing from August 2015 to the July 2016. And for each home, we know the basic information about the property. And also we know when it was listed and when it was sold, and also the final sale time. And in particular, we know the entire histories of list prices and the occurring time of all the home tours. And in particular, I want to emphasize that all the home sellers in our setting have signed a sole agent contract with the Lianjia. That means all the home tours have been witnessed by the real estate agents and included in our data sets. And one unique setting of Lianjia is that it not only updates the information of time on the market, but also updates the real-time home tours on its website. So basically in our setting, the buyers observe not only the time on the market, but also the occurring time of past home viewings. This is one picture, even though everything is written in Chinese, but I can translate it to you. So let's say this is the website of the Lianjia, and it lists a lot of homes. For particularly the first one, you will see how many people have viewed this home in person, and also you know when it was listed, and also basic information if you click this picture. And in particular, it posted all the real-time home tours. Like the first column is the when it occurs, and also which agent. And the 12 is the number of home viewers in the last 7 days. And in the last week, it has 47 home viewers. So this is the data we have. And but in the previous literature about the observation learning, usually they focus on the time on the market. One reason is that in their setting, the buyers don't know the past viewings. But in our setting, the information structure is a little bit different. And then in our model, we assume the seller has a reservation value, and which is kind of the lowest offer will be accepted. As long as the offer is higher than this reservation value, and the offer will be accepted. Otherwise, it will be rejected. Accepted also depends on whether there's any higher offer. And this reservation value can be interpreted as the seller's outside option. And the buyers don't know the reservation value, and they need to learn about the seller's reservation value. And in each week, the prospective buyers will arrive, and they infer the reservation value from the home's list price and the time on the market and the past home viewings. And their perception about the seller's reservation value will affect their choice of whether to view the home in person and how much to offer later on. And in the model will predicts that at equilibrium, the sale price can be either higher than or lower than the list price or equal to the list price. And in particular, it will have a max point at the list price. This is in line with the widely documented empirical facts of the housing market. But our model captured that feature. And then after we estimate the model using the data I just presented, and we are going to consider do some counterfactual analysis to quantify the welfare effects of different information disclosure rules. And as mentioned in our model, the buyers observe both the time on the market and the past viewings. So we are going to consider first one counterfactual scenario in which none of the information is disclosed to buyers. So the buyers basically don't update their beliefs as long as the price doesn't change. And basically, in this case, there's no observation learning in the non-information case. And we are going to also consider another counterfactual scenario in which the buyers only observe the time on the market, but not the past viewings. And in this case, the buyers will update their beliefs about the seller's reservation value if a home is still on the market. But the updating rule will be different in our model, where the buyers observe both the time on the market and the past viewings. And the difference between the partial information model and the non-information model will tell us the effect of disclosing the time of the market information. And based on our simulation results, we found that because of the disclosure of this information, the buyer surplus will be around 15% lower, and the seller surplus will be 53% higher, and on average. And also the difference between our model where the buyers observe both information and the partial information model where buyers only observe the time on the market is going to tell us the additional effect of disclosing this new information. And our simulation results suggest that because of this additional information, the buyer surplus will be a little bit higher and the seller surplus will be a little bit lower. And as a whole, if we disclose these two information, compare if we don't disclose none of them, and the buyer surplus will be around 13% lower, and the seller surplus will be around 46% higher. So this is just a summary of the empirical, the counterfactual results. And our study is related to the large literature on the observation learning. And most of the existing literature in this field have focused on the quality learning. And some look at the learning of the quality of new products. And some look at how the consumers learn from the consumer rating provided by the rating platforms like Yelp. And in particular, in the housing market, there are some papers look at the observation learning from the time on the market. Like I mentioned, the Taylor 1999 and the Tucker et al. 2013 is an empirical study. And in contrast, in our paper, the buyers learn about the seller's reservation value instead of the quality. And even though the learning of the trading party's outside option has been emphasized by many theoretical papers, but it has been largely ignored by the empirical studies. So our papers kind of fills in this gap. And also in our paper, the buyers have different information structure. As I mentioned, they observe both time on the market and the past viewings. So we can quantify the effects of each of the information. And also we are related to the empirical literature on consumer search. And most of the previous literature have focused on how the search friction affects the firm's market power, and where the firms post the price and the consumers will take the post price as a take it or leave it offer. And one exception is Allen et al. 2019. They introduced the price negotiation into the search framework and study the Canadian mortgage market. And in our paper, we are going to add the observation learning and the bidding to the consumer search model. And in our model, the list price works as a partial commitment device. It's not a take it or leave it offer. And we are going to quantify the welfare effects of different information disclosure rules. And our counterfactual results is going to relate to the literature of information disclosure. And in this literature, some papers look at the effects of price disclosure on the market competition, and some others look at how the disclosure of product quality affects the welfare or other choices. And we are going to look at some information disclosure through the observation learning instead of the direct measure the product quality or just to tell you what is the prices. Okay, first let me present the data we have. And as we said, the sample we have includes around 30,000 homes and listed by Lianjia and sold by Lianjia in 1 year. And this table presents the summary statistics of some key variables. The first one is the weeks to sell. That is number of weeks between its initial listing and the final transaction. And on average, the home sellers in Beijing spend 5.4 weeks on the market with a standard deviation of 4.9. And they accumulate around 11.6 home viewers before they sell. And in the literature, the empirical literature of a housing market, the one paper report that the American home sellers spend around 7.3 weeks on the market using a survey data. And compared to their statistics, it looks like the Beijing home sellers spend a little bit shorter time, 2 weeks shorter on the market. And the information about home tours is very real in the literature. And the only paper we are aware of is the Mellor and et al. 2004. And they look at 200 properties in Great London metropolitan area. And they report that on average, the home sellers there accumulate 9.5 home tours before they sell. And in our data, the average is around 11. So looks like the Beijing home sellers accumulate more home tours, and also heterogeneity is much larger than their data sets. And the list price is around 3 million Chinese yuan. It's kind of like 400 to 500K dollars on average. And the transaction price is a little bit lower than that. And on average, basically in the data set, most of the homes are apartments. And the average age is around 18 to 18.8 years, and the average size is around 16.7 square meters, just apartments, and cost 3 million Chinese yuan. And just as I said, the uniqueness of our data is that we know the occurring time of each home tours. And this allows us to look at the dynamics of the home viewings over the sale time of a home. And in this graph, the horizontal axis is the number of weeks a home has been on sale. And the bars indicates the number of homes are still active in that week for each week. And it declines over the sale week because as the sale process going on, some homes will be sold and they will be exited. And the dots indicates the average number of home tours in each sale week. And clearly we can see the number of home viewings declines over the sale week, starting from around 2.4 in the first week, and declines to 1.9 in the if a home has been on the market for 15 weeks. And we also look at the
quick question.
Sure.
Like especially earlier on in the process, should we be thinking about one viewer is crowding out another in terms of time, or is it possible for two people to view the same home at the same time? What's like the procedure in this market versus?
So in this market, let's say if I'm a home buyer and I'm interested in a home, and I'm going to contact my agent, and the agent is going to schedule the home tours for me, and the agent will get the key from the seller and schedule the viewings. And if multiple buyers are interested let's say at the same time, they can accommodate multiple buyers at the same time.
Thank you.
So like multiple buyers will view the home at the same time.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if there was going to be crowding out.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different from the US market. Here, the sellers can hold the agent or the seller themselves can hold like open house. And, any buyer who are interested can come, right? And in the Beijing market, everything's kind of like controlled by the agents. And the agents is going to schedule the home tours. There's no open house. And as long as some buyer are interested, they'll need to look at the homes through the agents. That's why we know all the home tours in the data. That's how we get it, this information. But they can do at the same time.
And is there
we compare, look at the difference.
Excuse me?
Sorry,
is there some auction process going on, or?
Oh, yes. If multiple buyers are interested, yeah, there will be auction. There will be bidding war.
Is the agent also organizing such an auction, or is it just if two or more bidders bid simultaneously, then just by definition there will be some kind of auction, but that's just accidentally?
Yeah, it's kind of like a bidding wars. Like let's say if you and me both are interested in one home, and I may need to bid against you, and I'm going to submit the offer and through my agent, and you're going to submit the offer through your agent, and then the seller is going to pick the highest offer.
But we don't know that there will be an auction, or
they don't know in advance. They don't know.
Exactly. So
yeah,
you make
when they make the viewing decision, they don't know.
Exactly. You make an offer to your agent. Somebody else makes also an offer to an agent. But when you make the offer, you don't really know that there might be other bidders bidding simultaneously.
Oh, you know the number of bidders, but you don't know what the offer they offer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. And we also look at the relationship between the transaction price and the list price. And the transaction price can be either lower or higher or equal to the list price. In our data sets, the majority, the 18% of the sale price is lower than the list price. And 15% of them are exactly the same as the list price. And the remaining 4% of them are higher than the list price. And this is not unique to our data set. And in the other data sets reported by other studies, also found that the transaction price can be either higher or equal or lower than the list price. And we also run a hedonic regression of the log of transaction price on a lot of house characteristics, including the location dummies, the size of the home, the number of bedroom, bathroom, living rooms, and also the building floors and the building year and other time effects. And the R square is quite high, it's around 0.9. So basically it suggests that the observables can provide a very accurate prediction of the actual transaction price. And this is also the same findings as in the Mello 2015. And they also found a very high R square in their hedonic regression. And lastly, I want to report something about the list price. And in our data set, the list price are quite sticky. And actually 16% of the sellers have never changed the list price and before sale. And 25% of them changed only once, and 85% of them changed twice. Only 3% of them changed more than twice. And in the Melon 2015, they look at, just as I said, they look at the UK housing market. They found a similar thing. 17% have never changed the price, and only very few changed more than twice.
Can I ask a question about this?
Sure.
So how easy is it for me to relist my house as a new one? Because I mean, I know for sure that this is done in many countries in different, at least in rental markets. So I take down the ad and I pretend as if it's a new one. That would get me many more viewings according to your data, for example.
Yes, so in the, just I mentioned, there are some regulations about that in the United States. And it differs across states, like in Massachusetts, they adopt some regulation. As a seller, you cannot do that.
But your data is from China.
Like, recount. Yeah, here is from China, and there's some like rules. If you release it in, like within 3 months, that is not allowed. They're like, you have to, if you're not sold and take it down, and if you want to release it, you will need to some time gap between it. And in our data here, the data we have, so all the homes in our data are listed and also sold during the 1 year period. So there's no relisting concerns in our data set here.
I'm not sure I understand how can you rule out that? I mean, in the sense that if, so do you, okay. Okay, so none of these ones remain unsold.
Yes, in our data set, all the homes are listed and sold eventually.
Okay, thanks.
So we know the entire history of this.
Is that by selection that you, because the fact that 100% of homes are sold is a little bit shocking?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's a selection. We select the homes which are already sold. Okay. But there are some homes listed but not sold. And because in our data, we need to use all the information like about the transaction price, everything. But if your home is not sold, we don't know what is the transaction price is. So we just focus on the homes who are sold eventually. And according to the observation learning story, if a home has been on the market, has accumulated a lot of home viewings, but not sold, basically it indicates the home either have a low quality or the seller has a very high reservation value. That's why the previous buyers didn't buy it. And because of that, and later on, the buyers are less likely to view this home later. And this is the prediction of the observation learning story. And basically means the newly occurred home viewings will be negatively correlated with the accumulated home viewings. And we are going to run a regression of the newly viewings in a week on the accumulated viewings at the beginning of that week and controlling the house fixed effect. And we found out the coefficient before that particular variable is negative and significant. So basically kind of like a consistent evidence of the observation learning story. But still, this regression cannot tell us whether the buyers learn about the quality or about the seller's reservation value, because both of them have the same predictions.
Can I again jump in the sense that I think many people say housing is a relatively special good, and I think it's true in the sense that if I buy a house today, I'm a buyer, but in the future, I'm quite likely to be a seller.
Oh,
so
yes.
that, you know, I should care about, indeed, if the current seller has a high reservation value, that's actually good for me, because that means that, you know, I might be able to sell this house at a high price in the future. So do you make some sort of assumptions on only values being private, or because I'm not sure this first bullet point would go through if you, for example, instead would have buyers that differ in their ability to whatever, you know, determine the quality or whatever, something like that, and then still this common value aspect mattering. I mean, then I might be more likely to view a flat that is still unsold and has been viewed many times, or I'm not sure, but it's not so trivial in my opinion.
If a buyer also, will be more likely to be a seller later on, like a couple of years later.
Yeah.
And here in our paper, we don't consider this correlation, you know, between the current sale and the future sales. And this is one thing. Another thing,
but you should.
They do.
That's no.
But here we are kind of like, we observe the list. So here the learning occurs where like the buyers observe the list price, and based on the list price and the home viewings in the past, and also time on the market for this particular home, and learn about the seller's reservation value for this particular seller. And overall, maybe if the things you think is correlated, and maybe will be reflected in the list price later on. And later we will see what is the model look like, and
Okay.
maybe yeah.
Thanks.
Let's say if the buyers learn about the product quality, so then it will suggest that if a home has a lot of viewings, and basically it indicates the home has a worse quality, and as a result, the future buyers will have a lower willingness to pay for that home, and the sale price tends to be lower in the end. So the sale price and the number of viewers are negatively correlated if the buyers are learn about the product quality. But in contrast, if the buyers learn about the seller's reservation value, we will have the opposite prediction. Because based on this story, if a home has a lot of viewings, it suggests that the seller has a high reservation value. And then the higher reservation value will lead to higher sale price in the end. So the sale price and the number of viewers will be positively correlated. So these two learning stories will have opposite prediction about the correlation between the number of viewers and the sale price. And we're going to run a regression of the final transaction price of a home on the number of viewers it has accumulated before sale. And the beta one is positive and significant based on our estimation results. So it suggests that at least, even though we cannot rule out the buyers are learning about the product quality, but at least it suggests that buyers do learn about the seller's reservation value. And also in our hedonic regression, you know, the observables have predicted the transaction price in a very well way. So it also suggests that the quality learning is not very not play a major role in here. Maybe because partly the homes in our data set are apartments. You know, it's not like the single home house in the United States. So for the apartments, the quality heterogeneity not that much after you observe the controlling the observables. Okay, next. Sure.
Can I ask a question about the first bullet point? So here, so it looks like you are just excluding the adverse selection completely. I mean, in the sense that, so I have a high quality, in my house, I think that my house has a high quality,
Mhm.
then my reservation value actually could be high. So looks like you are actually not considering that type of adverse selection. Is that?
Yeah, the quality is like unobservable. If the quality is unobservable, and I have a 10, and in the first regression, we control for that because in here we have the fixed effect. So that's already control the unobserved quality for the same house.
No, but I'm just talking about like, the seller's reservation value depends on the quality.
Yeah, if the reservation value
Mhm.
depends on the quality, if both, here I'm just saying like if the buyer only learn about the product quality, then that will be the case. And if the buyer only learn about the seller reservation value, will be this case. If both exist, then the correlation between these two will be more complicated. So it's not like this clear prediction anymore.
Okay, so like, my question is that you are not considering the case where there's a correlation between reservation value and the quality of the house.
No, yeah, no.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm just
no.
saying that because that's actually the
Here
case
I'm
that
just
has
saying
been studied a lot in the literature. So that's all I wanted to say because
yes, if both, let's say if the buyers learn both the product quality and the seller's reservation value, and then this relationship will be much more complicated than what I said here.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, and next, let me present the model. And the buyers are short-lived, and the lifetime utility of a buyer who arrived in the sale week T from buying the home have these three components. Here, the delta is the home's financial value that all the buyers and the seller agree on, and they know it without viewing the home. And that's kind of like a common quality. And the V is the buyer I's idiosyncratic match value, and the buyers only know it after paying a viewing cost and do the home tour. And the V follows the distribution of F, and the viewing cost C follows the distribution of per C. And the PIT is the price that the buyer I needs to pay if she buys the home. And she doesn't know it before view the home. She only know it after viewing the home and bid, and if they need to bid, and if she wins the home eventually. And the seller has a reservation value, RT. Here we're going to measure it relative to the financial value. So if RT is positive, means seller's reservation value is higher than the financial value. If equal to 0, means it's exactly the same as the financial value. If RT is negative, means it's lower than the financial value. And this is the lowest offer that will be accepted at time T. So here, basically, the sellers are very passive. So they just have some threshold rule. As long as the offer is lower than that, if all the offers are lower than that, I won't sell it. Only if some offer is higher than that, I will sell it. So kind of RT measures the seller's outside option. And the prospective buyers don't know the value of the RT. And also this RT may change over time if some exogenous shock happen. And the list price also is relative to the financial value. And it just simply just the sum of the reservation value plus a non-negative term eta. So the eta kind of measures the markup of the when the seller sets their list price. What is the difference between the list price and the reservation value? And the eta follows the distribution of H on the interval from 0 to eta bar. And as a result, the initial belief of the buyers about the seller's reservation value will have the same density as the density of the eta. And also on the interval A minus eta bar, and at the most is A. And next, I'm going to talk about the timing of the model. So
just quick question. So sellers are just non-strategic here completely. So they actually don't
non-strategic. Sellers are very passive.
So
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
yeah,
right.
that have a list price, but they don't adjust it, strategically. In our data, I just mentioned like most of them don't change their list price at all. If they change, it's just because some exogenous shock happened. And in each sale week, if a home is still on the market, and in the first stage, the empty prospective buyers will arrive with some probability, and the buyers know the arrival process, but they don't know the realization of M, so they don't know how many people are interested. And the list price will be revealed to all the prospective buyers, and the buyers observe the histories of all list price in the past, and also the number of viewers in the past. And then they are going to form a belief about the seller's reservation value, RT, which is denoted by the GT function. And then each buyer will decide whether to view the home to know her match value, V, and by paying a cost, C. And then the number of viewers, N, is determined, and then will be revealed to the current and the future buyers. If nobody have viewed the home, then the house will be retained by the seller and will be on sale for the next period. And if somebody have viewed the home, and then we're going to move to the next stage. So in the next stage, each viewers who have already know their match value, also basically they know their private valuation, and they're going to decide how much to offer. And if one offer is accepted, then their house will be transacted. And if no offer is accepted, then the house will be on sale for the T+1 period. So we are going to solve this game backwards. We look at the stage 3 first. So suppose in the stage 3, somebody have viewed the homes, and NT people have viewed the home and know their private value, and it's going to decide whether to accept the list price or not. So because each home has a list price. And in the first case, if at least one buyer accepts the list price, then the seller has to sell. So this is a commitment has been written in the contract between the seller and the agents. If the seller rejects any offer higher than the list price, the seller has to pay the agent the full commission fees. So as long as the offer is higher than that, they need to sell. And if only one person have accept the list price, then the house will be sold to that buyer at the list price. But if multiple buyers willing to pay higher than the list price, then they're going to bid against each other. So at equilibrium, we know the bidding will end when the second highest bidder drops out. So this is kind of equivalent to a second price auction starting from the list price. And in the second case, if nobody accepts the list price, then the seller can reject or accept the highest counter offer, depending whether it is higher than his reservation value or not. And if a buyer submits the offer and rejected by the seller, either because it's lower than the seller's reservation value or is lower than the other people's offer, she is free to submit any new offer later on. There's no cost of that. And if multiple buyers are interested in the home, again, they need to bid against each other. So in this case, again, similarly, will be equivalent to a second price auction with a reserve price equal to the seller's reservation value, RT. But these RTs are known to the buyers. And we are going to show that at equilibrium, the bidding strategy will have this form. And there will be two cases. In the first case, only one buyer have viewed this home. So for that particular buyer, definitely it's optimal to not accept the list price, because if accept, she has to pay the list price. And then as long as her valuation is higher than the seller's reservation value, she will buy the home at the price of the seller's reservation value. But if multiple buyers have viewed the home, then they will show that there will exist a unique cutoff V hat, which is higher than the list price, and such that at equilibrium, the buyers whose willingness to pay are lower than the cutoff, then it's going to not reject or not to accept the list price and bid their true value if they need to bid. But for the buyers whose willingness to pay is higher than the cutoff, then it will be optimal to accept the list price and bid their true value if they need to bid. And why? Because it's not hard to show that for the buyers whose willingness to pay is lower than the AT, the list price, the optimal choice is to reject the AT and bid if they bid their true value if they need to bid. But the intuition for the buyers whose willingness to pay are higher than the list price is not that straightforward. So for those buyers, if they accept the list price, they need to pay at least the list price if they win. If there's nobody accepted and she is the only one, or if there are other people accepted but bid against each other and she is the winner. But on the other hand, if she rejects the list price, she may lose the home if someone else accepts the list price. So basically, they are going to trade off between the gain if she wins, and with the probability they may lose the home if they don't accept the list price immediately. So that's why we have this cutoff solution.
Just so you know, you have 10 minutes. Just.
Okay. Oh, that's very short. Okay, I'm going to speed up. And then we calculate what is the transaction probability conditional on the number of viewers, and also the transaction price distribution conditional on the number of viewers. And in particular, I want to highlight that the transaction price at equilibrium can be either lower than the list price or higher than the list price. And also there will be max point at the list price. This happens when the highest bidder have a willingness to pay higher than the V hat, but the second highest have a willingness to pay lower than the V hat. Then the transaction price will be exactly equal to the list price. Now we go back to the second stage, then they'll look at the viewing decisions. So the viewing decision is quite straightforward. The buyers will view the home as long as their search cost is lower than a cutoff. And this cutoff equal to the expected gain of viewing. And that will be the probability of n people view the home and expected gain if n people view the home. So then we go back to the stage one, how they update their belief. If the list price doesn't change, so they're going to update their belief based on how many people have viewed this home. If nobody viewed this home, then the belief will be the same. But as long as some people view this home, then we're going to use the Bayesian rule to write down the new rule, the new belief. And if the list price exogenous changed, and then we're going to update this belief as the same as the previous one, but we'll shift the belief by the amount of the list price change. Okay, next I'm going to talk a little bit about the estimation. So first of all, we're going to need to specify what is the financial value. And we specified as depends on the observables X, which we included in the hedonic regression. And we estimate this beta using this hedonic regression and predict the financial value. And all the prices like the list price, sale price, seller's reservation price will be measured as the difference between the actual values relative to the predicted financial value. And also we make some distribution assumption. First of all, we assume the buyer's arrival process follows a Poisson distribution, and the arrival rate depends on a bunch of exogenous characteristics, factors. And the seller's markup eta is uniform distributed on some interval, and as a result, the initial belief is uniform. And the match value is a truncated normal distribution with upper bound V bar, and the view cost follows a log normal distribution. So we're going to estimate the parameters I highlighted in red. And the data for each home, we observe the sale time and the list price in each week, number of viewers in each week, and also the exogenous factors affecting the arrival rate, and also the final transaction price. So in terms, first of all, the match value distribution and the eta, we can identify from the conditional transaction probability and the price, because these two only depends on the match value distribution and the belief. And the search cost distribution and the arrival rate parameter will be identified from the number of viewers conditional on the list price. And we are going to estimate these parameters using the maximum likelihood approach. And here is the estimates. I want to highlight here is that the search cost we found is around 5,700 Chinese yuan, is equivalent to around $800, kind of like half of the monthly mortgage payment. Looks very high, but it's comparable with the literature of empirical literature on consumer search. And we, using this estimated model, we simulate the weeks to sale and number of home viewings and the transaction price for each home in the data. And this table summarize present the statistics of these variables, including in the data, also the simulated outcomes. So overall, the model can predict the data distribution in a reasonable way. And we also compute the buyer surplus and the seller surplus for each home. For the buyer surplus, we'll have two components. One is the net utility of the purchaser who eventually buy the home, and also minus the total viewing cost paid by all viewers. And on average, we found the mean is the buyer surplus is around 32,000 Chinese yuan, and the seller surplus will be measured by the difference between the transaction price and the reservation value. And the mean is around 67,000 yuan. And as I said, and eventually I'm going to use this model to quantify the welfare effects of information disclosure rules. And in the model, the buyers observe both information. So we first consider if none of the information is disclosed. And in this case, the belief will be the same as the initial belief, as long as it will be uniform distributed. And in the second counterfactual scenario, the buyers only observe the time on the market. So they are going to update their belief based on time on market only. And because they don't know what is the number of viewers in at each time, so they're going to compute what is the probability and take the average. So we found that if we disclose the time on the market information only, and the transaction price will be compare the buyers in the partial information case with the buyers in the non-information case. The buyers who know the time on the market is going to increase their belief about the seller's reservation value if they observe a home still on the market. And a higher belief is going to increase the sale price directly. But meanwhile, with a higher price, then the gain from viewing will be lower, and it's going to discourage the people to view the home in the first place. That's going to bring down the sale price. So the total effect is depending on these two effects. And how it affects the sale time directly, higher belief is going to reduce the sale probability. And also because the higher price, which is going to bring down the number of viewers, which also will bring down the sale probability. That's to say, knowing this information is going to extend the sale time. And based on our simulation, the number of within this information, the sellers will stay 1.8 more weeks on the market. And the transaction price will be around $78,000, not dollars, Chinese yuan higher. As a result, the buyer surplus is lower, seller surplus will be higher. And additionally, we look at the effect of the past viewing. And in the model, where the buyers know both, then they were going to update their belief based on the actual number of viewers. But in the partial information case, the buyers take the expectation over all the possible n. And in particular, for example, if n equal to 0, then our model, the belief won't change. But in the partial equilibrium model, the belief tends to go higher. But we found, based on our simulation method results, we found that additional effect of disclosing these past viewings on top of the time on the market won't affect the sale time and sale price much. And as a total, the disclosing these two information is going to extend the sale time and increase the sale price. And as a result, the buyer surplus will be lower, seller surplus will be higher. Okay, so this is pretty much I have, and for this paper, and to summarize, we present and estimate a structure model of buyer learning and search and bidding. And we evaluate the information, the welfare effects of different information disclosure. And in the model, we don't, as some of you have already mentioned, the seller's choice of list price is not strategic. And also we don't model the quality learning. So kind of like a limitation of our paper, and also will be interesting for future research. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We now open it up to questions.
Yeah, I have a question. Sorry. Yeah, just so you had that information where you had like 81% was above, or was it?
Yes, 81% below. The transaction price is below the list price.
Below, 15%. Do you use that sort of information to gain intuition or numerically to sort of say which sort of learning is important? Because I think if it's above, well, then maybe the quality is more important. If it's below, then maybe the reservation price is more important. So there were more above than below, right?
Yes. Oh no, there's a 4% above.
4%. So therefore the quality may be more important, because I mean, if it's mostly below, then the reservation price is important and the quality is not so much. And when it's above, then the other way around, right? Which is kind of consistent with your results, right? Okay.
Yeah, if it's above, the seller's reservation value doesn't matter anymore, because it's already, the list price is already above the reservation value.
So
and it more depends on the buyer's valuation.
So that's
depends on seller's valuation. Like,
so that's
yes, that's why that variation we.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I couldn't hear, but that's exactly the thing we use to identify the match value distribution. You know, what is the consumer's match value?
Okay,
we use that difference. And in the previous papers, they don't estimate this one because they don't have this information. Usually they will normalize the heterogeneity of match value to be 1, but not estimate it because they don't have this difference to variation to identify it. But in our case, we are, just like you mentioned, because we know the difference between the transaction price and sale price. That's allow us to identify what is the buyer's match value distribution.
I see, thank you.
Yiyi. So in the US, as you know, the realtor can take up to 6% of the retail price of the house. And so in your surplus numbers, how should we think about that? And what kind of fraction of the surplus does the realtor take in China?
In China, so like in the Lianjia, this particular real estate agent, and the buyer, if the buyer after final transaction, the buyer pay 2.1%, and the seller pay 1%. So it's kind of like both share the commission fees. And I think in our model, it will be included in the list price. So the list price, if a seller, I'm going to capture it, the commission fee I need to pay in the end.
So your surplus figures then are net of the
net, yeah, the net of that.
All right.
Yeah.
So I have a few questions. So one is that, so you said that, so the seller needs to accept the price if it is, weekly above the list price. The price offered by the buyer exceeds the list price. So the seller has to accept it. Is it the regulation or is it just like market practice?
Market practice, because the seller have, they usually, if they have a contract with the agent, and if I set the list price is $1 million, and then as long as some offer higher than that, and the seller need to accept it, otherwise they need to pay the whole permission fee or commission fee to the agents.
So it's each on the contract.
Yes, really in the
Okay.
contract.
All right. And so I have questions about the details. So the one is that, so are you assuming that all the viewers are going to make offers?
No. Yeah, here just assume that the buyers are short-lived. If they make the viewers view decisions and make the bidding offer, if they are out, and they are out. And
No. What I mean is that once I decide to view the house, I'm going to make an offer, like after inspection.
Yeah. As long as I view the home, I will make an offer. Maybe my offer is very low, then definitely will be rejected. So, but still, I will have some willingness to pay for that home. I will have some offer.
But is it realistic? I mean, all the viewers are going to make offers. Like, I
in
know
reality, maybe not.
I see. In the model, you actually just know.
Yeah, in reality, yes. In reality, maybe not. If I'm a viewer, I know my willingness to is really low. I feel like I won't win at all. Then I may just escape, right? So,
I know,
but here, kind of like a modeling device,
The number of I mean, the thing is that the number of viewers, in reality, the number of viewers is going to be could be much higher than the number of offers. So,
and the number of bidders, yes, the actual bidders.
They can actually make I mean, I feel like, they may have some implications about some of your estimates.
Yeah, it might be.
I'm not an expert, but I thought that that part was a bit like, maybe depart from the reality a bit too much. So I don't know what to do, but I just thought that that could be potentially problematic. And another one is that I actually didn't understand, your bidding equilibrium. So I thought that, you assume that the reserve price is not observable to buyers, but when there's only one buyer, the transaction price is going to be equal to the reserve price. I thought that you have such a slide, the bidding equilibrium.
Yeah, because here the buyer, the buyer is free to submit new offers. So if I'm the only person interested in this home, even though I don't know the seller's reservation value, I'm going to try a very low offer first and increase it as long as it will be lower than my my valuation, and then increase it until the seller will accept it. So that's kind of like a try and test what is the seller's reservation value is.
Okay, so here you're not assuming that the buyer is going to, each buyer is going to just make an offer.
Yeah, not only one offer. So here the buyer can free to make many offer as they want. There's not much cost of making an offer.
Is that true in these markets?
And also, I thought.
Just a quick, is that a realistic?
I don't know, but I just.
Right, because in the U.S., almost certainly
maybe there's some cost related to it. Yeah, maybe some cost related to making an offer. But here, basically, assume is very minimal, can be ignored. Like if you make an offer, just tell the agent what you want, try it up. But I think theoretical will be approximate that one. Maybe not exact with some cost.
To me, this is where the assumption of a passive seller bites the most, that the seller is sitting there waiting for this to happen.
Yes, the sellers are very passive in here. Yeah, as long as some offer exceeds the RT, I'm going to accept it.
Yeah, but I have actually a follow-up question to Teddy's. Even if you can make multiple offers, I mean, the seller is not required to reveal his reservation price, right? Yeah, he could pretend that.
It did not.
But then it like, even if you reach you like up your bid, the seller could still claim that, oh, it's still not enough. right? So therefore, I mean, it becomes a bargaining. So I think assuming that the seller will accept exactly at the reservation price, I think it's an assumption, so which is kind of equivalent to assuming the reservation price is revealed, right? Which is, so I'm still not understanding.
It is assumption because we assume the seller has RT this reservation value. Reservation value means as long as I'm offer higher, then I'm gonna accept. It's kind of like his outside option.
Oh, so he's
and,
not.
But
he's
if
not
you consider the buyer, it's not strategic. If the seller is strategic, they may wait or like may even like when they set the list price, they may consider what is their reservation value, whether to signal it or not signal it or whatever. So that will be much more complicated. So here we kind of assume that away and assume the seller is very passive and look at how, given this case, how the buyer learn and make their view and bidding choices.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
That's what in the end I mentioned. This is kind of the one limitation of this study. We ignore the seller's strategic choices.
Okay. I am going to cut the recording here, but people can stick around and continue to ask.